We begin. My first question to the panel, which consists of Abe Foxman, Leslie Sachs, Professor Al-Roy from the Haifa University Ruderman program. Does the Israeli government, its prime minister, with all his experience in the United States, its ministers, do they understand the dilemmas facing the Jewish community in the United States in dealing with Israel?
I wouldn't go that far. I would say the Prime Minister certainly understands. And he has, throughout at least the last 5 years, maybe even 10, made serious efforts to deal with the problem. The rest of the government, not necessarily. The political system is such that he's kept hostage to the political asymmetry, and therefore, while he understands and says the right things and even introduces initiatives, he doesn't follow through to implement it.
Abe, you are saying that the government of Israel sometimes takes action which do not correspond with the interest of the Jewish community in the United States.
Yes, because they have different priorities here. The priorities of any government, whether you like it or not, is to stay in power, stay in government. And sometimes that cost is to ignore Jewish community or other interests beyond the borders of Israel.
Leslie, what do you think are the major problems creating the gap that Abe referred to between the Israeli government and the Jewish community?
Well, of course, Women of the Wall is one of the main issues, not Women of the Wall, but the wish for prayer at the wall in different ways that are accepted now. And of course, the whole issue of religious pluralism, whether Israel recognizes other ways of being Jewish, which is the major way of being Jewish in North America. These, I feel, are some of the main issues that are widening the rift between North American Jewry and Israel.
Can you give us 2-3 examples? One is the prayer at the Kotel. Now, translate to me the other issues. Is it the marriage issue?
I think that it, well, firstly, if you remember back, it was the conversion at the time. The conversion, marriage and divorce. And of course, just recognizing that there are different ways of being Jewish, and the majority of Jews in North America, of course, are not ultra-Orthodox. It's not the way that is expected here.
Professor Al-Roy, what do you think are the, beyond what Abe and Leslie said about the certain situation within the government of Israel, what is the major problem that is lying between the community and the government?
I would like to respond following your first question, and I will do it very shortly, okay? I think that the Prime Minister doesn't understand the situation of American Jewry today. I think if there are ministers in his government that say that the reforms are not Jews, so we have a problem. And I think that Israel defined itself as a state for the Jewish people, but the government is making decisions without consulting with them. Psharat HaKotel, for example, Chok HaGiyur, those are examples that I think that the government didn't take American Jewry into consideration. Now, I think that the main problem today, from my point of view, of course, in the Israeli society is that the Israelis know nothing about the challenge and about the American Jewry.
Aren't you exaggerating? Forgive me for saying
it. I will give you 2 examples, okay? First, in the education systems. Today in high school, the students, or if we read the curriculum and the textbooks, there is nothing about American Jewry except that President Truman helped in building the Jewish state, but nothing about the religious streams and other issues. In the Israeli Academy, there are some elective courses about American Jewry, but there is no, I would say, a coherent program about American Jewry. We have Asian studies, we have European studies, we have African studies, but the programs about American Jewry just vanished today in the Israeli Academy, and we have students that finish or graduate their BA or MA without know the history of American Jewry.
Abe, I would like to ask you, let's say that we identify the problem, and that is lack of knowledge or the lack of willingness to or ability to consider the U.S. Jewish community interest and concerns. Can we think about other mechanisms or other ways in which the Israeli government can be more exposed, certainly exposed, but secondly considering these concerns?
That the issue of ignorance of the Israeli public or lack of education, zelechut, that's a problem in itself. But I think if tomorrow you had 5 faculties on American Jewish community, it would not change the reality of this situation. This is a function of a political system that Israel has, which even though I disagree with you respectfully, I think the Prime Minister understands very well. He has dealt with this issue more hours and more days than he ever dreamt of.
I agree.
I can tell you I have spent hours on the subject in meeting with the Prime Minister. He understands, and I even think that he understands way beyond. I would say that the split or the distancing of the I'm talking about the American Jewish community, even though we're talking about diaspora, between Israel and the United States will not be and is not a function of settlements or occupation. It's a function of respect, and the respect is pluralism.
I agree.
don't know how many American Jews really care about the Kotel, because most of them don't even go to synagogue, but they feel that Israel does not respect them as Jews in whatever stream. The only way to fix it is for a government to have the courage to say this is what we have to do, or to change your system.
But by the
Otherwise,
way,
we're not
are
gonna see
we
change.
lacking mechanisms which will help the Israeli government and the Jewish community, or its elected bodies or an organization, sit twice a year, I don't know, and discuss these issues without taking a vote, but getting acquainted with the difficulties of each other and in a way to help?
The answer is that would be wonderful, but if a minority party can hold up the passage of legislation, this is wonderful, but it won't accomplish very much.
Can I say something about
please.
that? The government of Israel sat with North American Jewry through the Mendelblit discussions for 3 years. Now, the reform movement were represented there, the conservative movement in North America, and the federations. Natan Sharansky was there. We sat for 3 years and we talked. We came to an agreement. Okay, the government voted, and North American, Jewry was elevated. We're so happy that here there's a compromise, there's an agreement, and we had to compromise also. It wasn't everything that we wanted. And what happened was that here these negotiations have come to nothing. A year afterwards, and nothing has happened. And they feel cheated. They feel disrespect. They're not used to this kind of treatment. They came in good faith. They sat for 3 years. And the agreement was voted upon, and now everything is reversed. Not only that, there's legislation, there's an attempt for legislation that will make it all redundant. Again, we'll start going to prison or be arrested for praying with a talit and out loud and with a Torah scroll. This is not talking and discussing in the manner that you were talking about.
Where does it lead to? Let's say that this is the only issue between us and the U.S.
Well, I would say that's the most significant issue, because it's a question of respect. self-respect and respect for others. We are a people who will fight for the right of a Jew to go to a synagogue in Uzbekistan, but aren't ready to fight for an American Jew to go to his synagogue if it's in Israel. I think it is the most critical issue in terms of the future of diaspora in Israel. And as I said, it's not settlements, it's not occupation, it's the feeling that this is a country that does not respect the Jewishness of its brothers and sisters.
Do you feel that all of you, that all means have been exhausted in the dialogue that exists or should exist? Have we tried everything, and now we are now facing a crisis and nothing beyond?
We're facing the crisis again and again. We've talked. There is understanding. There are even solutions. So unless you change the political system, where the government is held hostage by small groups who will not permit a change, unless you have leadership that has courage to say this is important enough of an issue that I may take political risk, it won't change.
So we are heading, or we are already in a crisis.
Well, it's a continuous crisis. It's a crisis that doesn't get better. Okay.
Is there a divorce?
No, I don't think there's a divorce. As long as Israel is under threat, as long as Israel is not secure, there's not a divorce. Halavai, we come to the day when there's peace. And if there is peace, that's when you're going to deal with the issue of divorce.
Leslie?
I don't know. I'm feeling more and more that this is like a pivotal point. That we are at a point where deeds have to be done. It's not no more dialogue, no more talking. Israel has to show through its legislation, among other things, and through its action more than anything else, where it stands, and not just talking. I'll just add that Rabbi Elliot Cosgrove, the head of Park Synagogue, conservative rabbi, he said something. He said, we don't feel that Israel loves us as much as we love Israel.
We have 3 minutes, and I want to move to another issue with your indulgence. Is the elections of Trump gets the Jewish community, Israel relations more in trouble or less? Fact is, 70% always in the Jewish community vote Democrats. Fact is that it's likely that this is the most pro-Israeli president, moving embassies and etc., etc. Is it helpful or not to the building of the relations or cementing the relations Jewish community Israel?
Yeah, I don't think so that the relation between the Israeli government and the Trump administration will affect the relation between American Jewry and Israel, although they voted to Clinton, and 70%, as you said, vote to the Democrat Party. I think that the internal issue in Israel, church and states, are the main problem between Israel and American Jewry, and not the relation between the Israeli government and Trump.
Leslie?
I think Trump himself and the administration is so unpredictable. Who knows what will happen. So I really couldn't tell. Anything could happen that could influence American Jewry.
Abe, with so many years experience.
I think the answer is it depends. But you have a situation where, as you say, 70% of the American Jewish community did not vote for him.
Right.
And if all of a sudden the Liebe brennt, there's this great love affair, it will create problems, because part of that 70% will fight this administration on many issues. And if all of a sudden he becomes the great savior and the greatest friend of Israel, it will present a dilemma, because he will expect support.
Right.
He will expect appreciation.
And
if there is good news, there'll be some bad news because the American Jewish community is going to have to adjust. And it's not necessarily a quid pro quo. So, yeah, we're in for some very interesting times.
Do they really care whether the embassy functions in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem?
Well, this is one of these political boxes you're in. I'm sure I've been here a couple of days. The Israeli government, this is not a number one, number two, number three. It's not even a number 8 priority. But no Israeli will publicly say that Jerusalem is not important or you shouldn't move it. This is where the Trump administration, maybe because of the whisper of some Jews, believed every time you guys say Jerusalem is Jerusalem, is problematic because it may undo some of the progress we're all hoping for.
I do thank you, members of the panel,
Thank you.
Professor Roy, Leslie Sachs, and Abe Foxman. Many thanks.
Thank you.